I would like to welcome you all with us today. Thank you for coming. I will be reading my opening remarks in a bit. But first, I would like to welcome Dean Alan Shihadeh to open the conference, followed by Director Yaser Abunnasr. And you'll hear from me after that. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
Thanks, Ahmad. It's wonderful to see you all. We try to arrange good weather for city debates. Doesn't always work out. At least the first half of the day did work out. Welcome to the American University of Beirut. For those of you who are from outside, welcome to MSFEA and to City Debates 2025, held under the theme Co-Map, Remap, Unmap. I'm Alan Shihadeh. I'm the Dean of Engineering and Architecture. Today I'm the Dean of Architecture and Engineering. And this year's framing of City Debates, it's an event that we're extremely proud of. There have been more than 20 editions of City Debates. This year's framing invites us to examine the politics of mapping, not only who gets to draw the map, but what it hides and what it makes possible. It is fitting that this conversation happen here at AUB and particularly on this corner of campus because this Faculty of Engineering and Architecture, has been intimately tied to the history of mapping and power from its inception. The modern history of this region, as you know, has been shaped literally by maps drawn elsewhere. After World War I, the British and French empires carved new states from the Ottoman lands, not to reflect shared histories or cultures, but to divide and control. The goal, according to some accounts at the time, was to ensure that no regional power could emerge from here that could possibly challenge the British and French empires. And after World War II, the United States saw the opportunity in the destruction of Europe to step in and take the role of the British and the French and to create what later would be called Pax Americana. And the Undersecretary of State, Dean Acheson, under Harry Truman at the time, in 1945, he described the resources here in this part of the world as, quote, a stupendous source of strategic power. In that same memo, he was pushing for President Truman to shore up the kingdom, the monarchy of Saudi Arabia, to facilitate the investment in the petroeconomy that was emerging there, because that would be in the U.S. domain. So after World War II, so he pushed for that support. And by 1948, so that memo was in 1945, by 1948, Saudi Aramco was formed from companies that later we got to know as ExxonMobil, and so on and so forth. So all they needed at that point was a talent pool. They needed a talent pool who's going to work in and do the designs and the construction in the kingdom and in the Gulf. And I have a photo in my office from 1950. 2 years later, there was present Stephen Bechtel, who was the son of the founder of the Bechtel Engineering Corporation, after which the building next door is named, the Bechtel Engineering Building. Bechtel at the time was the largest and most influential engineering and construction company in the world. And I have that photo of Stephen Penrose standing with Stephen Bechtel just on the hill behind us, looking down at this site. This was still not constructed yet. And in probably what is still the Guinness Book of World Record feat, 1 year later, engineering faculty and building emerged with its programs and ready to take in the first set of students. So now in 1950, so that would be the first engineering school of its kind in the region at the time, and the only one founded on the American liberal model of education. And that's kind of why we're here today. It's a complex origin. This faculty emerged from a project of imperial mapping and resource extraction, but it also means that this space, and in fact this very room, can now serve as a site of critical remapping, a place where we question logics, deconstruct dominant narratives, and train a generation to rethink and remake the world. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here at MSFEA today. We're no longer here to support extraction and extractive industries. We're here to foster transformation. Our mission is to develop innovators, critical thinkers, designers, and builders who not only work within the world as it is, but who imagine and shape the world as it could be. And that's why we're rethinking what and how we teach. Lectures are giving way to studios, labs, and fieldwork. Our faculty are not record players, believe it or not. Our faculty are coaches, and our students don't just solve problems, they learn how to find and frame them. So by the time they graduate, they're equipped with the confidence and capacity to navigate complex challenges, and they do it in an open academic environment where curiosity, dissent, and creativity are not only allowed, but encouraged. And that's what makes MSFEA unique in the region. This mission aligns directly with the themes of city debates. COMAP speaks to the participatory, collaborative spirit of how we teach and learn. REMAP reflects our commitment to experimentation, to reimagining form and method. UNMAP is a reminder that sometimes the most radical act is to dismantle, to refuse inherited structures, and to envision something entirely new. The peoples of this region are not really at the table where decisions are made that affect their futures. We know that. I often quip to my colleagues in the engineering school, we write great poetry, but they write great software, and they seem to be winning. So this corner of the world has been in many ways a doormat for the great powers of the world, and that's something that we're here to change. And this is where MSFEA comes in as a next generation engineering and design school that pulls towards it the tinkerers, the wonderers, the risk takers, and the makers. And that aspiration isn't just about our reputation. It's about developing a generation of technically capable, ethically grounded leaders who are attuned to the challenges of our time. Every part of what we're building, from experiential learning to liberal education, is designed to cultivate that vision. People who can propose bold ideas, communicate them compellingly, act on them entrepreneurially, and change the course of this region with new industries, enterprises, and political initiatives. That's why this conference belongs here, because we're not just talking about maps, we are living with them, challenging them, and beginning to draw new ones. I want to thank the Beirut Urban Lab, our faculty and graduate programs, and the organizers, and all of you for being here today. Welcome to AUB, to MSFEA, and to City Debates 2025.
Good evening, everyone. Just a little slight correction with Ahmad. I'm the acting director of the school. I'm not the director of the school. So thank you, Ahmad, for that privilege. Dean Shihadeh, thank you for being with us and opening the conference. I would like to start with my thank yous first. So thank you for our graduate students, the Urban Lab, and specifically Professor Ahmad Gharbieh for leading on this and making really this 21st edition a very special one. I would like to welcome our speakers again and audience to the School of Architecture, to our 21st edition of the annual conference that continues to touch upon significant topics related to Lebanon, the region, and the planning and design disciplines at large. In many ways, City Debates is an act of mapping that documents, interprets, and provides evidence on issues over space and time. The 21st edition brings forward three themes of mapping, related to mapping: co-mapping, remapping, and unmapping. I'm not going to repeat this because I think they are very nicely, I think the Dean nicely explained them, and they're very well presented in the abstract. What I'm really much more interested in is why do we map and what are the enablers of mapping? Historically, mapping was an act of cartography that visually documents geographies, continents, and places, majorly for military reasons, navigation, colonial conquests, and resource extraction. Reading through the abstracts of City Debates, the reasons for mapping have really gone beyond these very limited and very politically oriented objectives. They touch upon inequity, gender, conflict, ecology, environment, and the narratives really behind the mapping. Yet the essential purpose remains to create a comprehensible and visual model of a phenomena or a condition at a specific point in time in a certain location and based on evidence. But what is really the key enabler of mapping? Mapping is a spatial model. We really get to extract reality and put it on, a flat sheet of paper. But I think really what really advanced mapping and the way we see mapping today is really technology at the base of it, Initially, the development of surveying and projection, and I think the whole idea of transforming the circular surface of the Earth into a flat area was a big feat and a big technological feat. Were key in advancing modeling the Earth's surface. With the advancement of analog aerial photography and later digital photography and remote sensing, the accuracy of modeling the Earth's surface and its changes was brought down to a precise science. With the advent of sensors, cellular towers, spatial mathematical algorithms, and specifically spatial ones, handheld devices, and more recently AI, the subjects that we are able to address are endless. The presentation that will be given in the next 2 days attests to this diversity of themes. We talk about strife, specifically the focus of Palestine and the connection to the Palestine Week, right? Then looking at inequity, looking at climate, weather, hidden meanings, future projections, and so forth and so forth. So mapping has really taken a totally different meaning beyond just the cartographic meaning. In many ways, we are in an era of technology with endless creative mapping possibilities and combinations, with limitless outcomes, but based on basic mathematics and science of probability, both logical types of knowledge. In this case, creativity is bound by the logic of endless possibilities. So today we work with math, with algorithms, with digital tools and systems, but they're all based on math, which is a very logical system, and we try and do really the maximum creation or the creative process out of that. Mapping fundamentally remains a process that documents the past, engages the present, and projects a future of scenarios. In many ways, it is synonymous with archaeology, a very dear discipline to mine, that uses evidence in a specific location during a specific period of time to construct a human-centered narrative. In my view, mapping is archaeology in the making. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Ahmad.
On behalf of my colleagues in the Master's Program in Urban Planning, Policy and Design, as well as the School of Architecture and Design and the Maroun Semaan Faculty of Engineering and Architecture at AUB, I welcome you all to City Debates 2025, titled CoMap, Remap, Unmap, Collective, Exploratory, and Radical Cartographies. Whoa, too many microphones. Yes, I'll say. Thank you, Saru. In times of collapse, the tools we use to make sense of the world are tested. And few tools carry as much weight or risk as the map. We gather here today as scholars, practitioners, artists, designers, and activists, and most importantly, as witnesses, committed to interrogating the role of the map in a world marked by erasure, extraction, expulsion, and violence. It's a daunting proposition, and I tried very hard, I promise you, to begin my remarks today differently. But I am going to echo something my colleague Mona Fawaz said in her opening of City Debates last year, which is her inability to open the conference on a hopeful note. Unfortunately, I find myself in a similar spot, incapable of moving beyond the moment that has been consuming us relentlessly since a year and a half, but I shall try. Personally, my positive take is that I am standing today on the shoulders of those who have organized City Debates for 20 years before me, building a conference series with an unmistakable mark on the field of urbanism, one that has evolved from a graduate seminar to establish itself as a landmark platform from the region, contributing to conversations around timely issues globally. It is a legacy that I am grateful to be contributing to, and a torch that I carry with an utmost sense of responsibility and care. But I feel that I have another responsibility here, which is to center Palestine in my address to you today. Since October 2023, the world has watched, too often in silence, as Gaza is subjected to a genocide broadcast in real time, Entire neighborhoods continue to be flattened, hospitals targeted. Just today, the last operating hospital in Gaza is being destroyed. Water infrastructure decimated, farmland burned, entire families annihilated. You know the story. Every element necessary to sustain life, physical, ecological, spiritual, has been systematically destroyed. Life itself denied to many. But what we stand and say here is that this violence is not arbitrary, it is spatial, it is calculated and strategic, and dare I say, mappable. In fact, it is deeply cartographic. In the most urgent way, mapping has become a tool for survival, for testimony, for resistance. It is my belief that in the face of denial and disinformation, cartographies can stand in opposition to settler acts and colonial narratives. They offer not only documentation, but justice-oriented imaginaries. And so, to speak of mapping today is to speak not only of methods and representations, but of ethics, of power, and of politics. Co-mapping in this light is not a liberal gesture of participation. It is a radical act of co-authorship. It is an insistence that knowledge is not owned, that space is not neutral, and that those most affected by dispossession are also the ones best positioned to narrate its contours. I'd like to, it's not an actual quote, but I'd like to refer to Nishat Awan's idea, who writes through her topological atlas that she will present today in our opening keynote, it is not enough to map displacement, we have to map from displacement. Remapping asks us to trouble the map's aesthetic and epistemic foundations. It invites us to play, to speculate, to reverse the gaze, to unlearn the colonial grid. And then there is the charge to unmap, to invert, to undo, to refuse, to make visible the systems of oppression embedded in even our most objective of visualizations. Over the next couple of days, we will hear from those whose work does not merely document injustice, but dissects its architectures, spatial, infrastructural, bureaucratic. We will move across scales and territories, from the burial groves of Louisiana to the wetlands of Chennai, from the river flows in Syria to the climes of Cambodia. We also recognize the full spectrum of mapping technologies represented in this room, from high-resolution satellite analytics to DIY stations operated by volunteers, from intricate GIS platforms to hand-drawn maps sketched in ethnographic notebooks, from data scraped and stitched in remote labs to testimony gathered in tents, on phones, and from memory. And through these diverse geographies, methods, and representations, we will ask shared questions. How do we co-map camaraderies that are under attack? How do we remap a world that is burning and besieged? How do we unmap the lies that sustain empire? And how can the map become a site of solidarity? Solidarity, after all, demands that we position ourselves politically, ethically, cartographically, that we attend to the ways borders are enforced, knowledge is policed, and lands made legible for control. So let us be very clear. To map is to take a position. And at this moment, to take a position means to stand with Gaza. To amplify Palestinian narratives, to understand that every destroyed home is a data point, yes, but also a refusal to disappear. And for that, we are very happy to be holding one of our panels as part of AUB's Palestine Week that was started last year by our colleague Bana Bashur, and be one of the many events that are being held on campus to learn from Palestine. Palestine that has become the most silenced geography on earth. And this onslaught is not entirely separate from what we see elsewhere. Across this program, our panels trace connected front lines. Migration routes turned into carceral zones. Wetlands and rivers treated as wastelands. Arrival sites mapped by their absences. Infrastructures of colonial violence, past and present, overlaid. Impressively, the speakers in this amazing lineup that we have in City Debates 2025 find ways to invite us to act. not only by simply redrawing boundaries, but by unsettling the conventions of cartography itself, challenging the authority of the aerial view and refusing the myth of neutrality. But they are also attentive to how mapping, like all technologies, can reproduce violence even as it is being resisted. The risk of extractivism, of flattening lived experiences into coordinates, remains. So we must be deliberate. We must make space for grief and ambiguity, for contradiction. We are not here to merely celebrate the map. We are here to struggle with it, to stretch its limits, to retool it for the many sites we inhabit, environmental, political, ecological, epistemological, to build cartographies that do not extract but entangle, that do not reduce but expose. We will learn from projects that bridge testimony and geolocation, that treat the digital as well as the affective, not just as a tool, but as a realm of possibility, that question the map as a political instrument, a colonial weapon, a surveillance device, a manager of populations and resources, and consider where mapping can become speculative, performative, maybe even ritualistic, a way of dreaming light in the midst of darkness. Taken together, the panels do more than diversify our understanding of mapping. They demand that we politicize it, and that demand is not new. Radical cartographers, feminists, indigenous geographers, grassroots organizers, many in this very room, have long been working to undo the violence of extractive mapping. What this moment calls for is to listen, to learn, and to carry those practices forward. City Debates has always been about more than just urbanism. It is a space for cross-disciplinary dialogue, for difficult questions, for committed scholarship. It is about how we live together or fail to. This year, let us make space for radical entanglements between disciplines, between movements, between cartographies of mourning and hope. Now for the thank yous, please bear with me. I would like to thank Dean Shihadeh and Acting Director Yaser Abunnasr for joining me in opening the conference and supporting it. IFPO, the Institut Français du Proche-Orient, and the Italian Embassy in Lebanon for their additional support. And of course, the Urban Studies Journal for including their annual lecture in this year's City Debates. We are very happy to have Dr. Gautam Ban with us on Thursday afternoon. You don't want to miss that. A big thanks to George El-Shami and all the students of City Debates Seminar. For all their hard work and for being such good sports amidst all the craziness. I also want to thank my co-directors at BUL, Huwaida Al-Harithi, you are truly missed. Muna Fawaz and Muna Harib, for your invaluable guidance. I lose track of how much I owe you. To Karim Shaltaf and Zain Al-Hos for their commitment and dedication, and the rest of the folks at BUL, I cannot ask for a better team. And to Antonia Bana, our lab manager. You are a true gem. Finally, I would like to thank our amazing speakers and discussants for being with us, colleagues, students, and friends for attending. I am very humbled to be launching the third decade of City Debates. Welcome, everybody.